Alright, I'm just gonna do a simple tutorial walking through the steps involved in building your own copy of one of my puzzles. First, you order things from my iMaterialize shop. In this case, we've got my MCC Plus, Master Curvycopter Plus. It arrives in a sinterbox, or iMaterialize calls this a grid container. And this keeps all the pieces together. And it also makes the pricing a lot better. So it's good for everybody. I like to use wire clippers to open the box. All right, lots of parts. I recommend you very carefully check the inside. Sometimes pieces will stay. And then do a count of the parts. The smallest parts, or fragile parts, I tend to include one or two extras in the center box. So you may end up with odd numbers, but if you send me a message on my channel on the correct video, on honestly any video, if you buy one of these puzzles, I can send you the part counts for each of them. Eventually I'll put them up on iMaterialize on the individual pages. Alright, so I'm going to start by just organizing these parts by piece type. While you're sorting the pieces, you will find that there are often mirror image parts. Like this. And so I tend to, sort them side by side, just so that I end up with equal piles. I like these small parts bins. They're really useful. I get it from McMaster Car. There. I have a full FTDI++ in this box. This will be my own personal copy. Little trick I have is if I run out of compartments, and I'm going to run out of compartments here, I will combine two types of pieces into one compartment, but I always will combine two very dissimilar pieces. That way I can reach into that compartment and always get either one or the other, and I'll know that I'll get one or the other. I don't have to actually look at it closely. So in this compartment I've put these two pieces, which are quite different from each other. You know, immediately upon looking at them, you can tell one from the other. And so I can put them both in the same box, and it's not a big deal. Alright, let's put these away for a little bit. Next step is to clean up some of the parts. This is a powder-based material, and some of the powder gets stuck inside. I used to actually hollow out my parts a lot more, and so this step used to be a lot longer. But the basic gist is there is unsintered powder that is inside each of the holes here, and so I get a drill bit and a drill and just actually go at it. It may look like I'm actually removing sintered material, but I think that drilling heats up the material enough to melt it. So you have to be really careful that you're not going at the wrong angle. We actually have to do a similar kind of work to the center caps on this puzzle. They still have some plastic powder in there. And I just get the smallest drill bit I have, or sometimes I use this Allen key. And I just loosen the powder and tap it on the table. The pile of powder that you create when cleaning out the pieces for the nebula is kind of hilariously huge. The corners get a lot of powder stuck in them. Moving on to the centers. This one, similar kind of cleanup. This time push all the way through, because the hole was not actually it wasn't actually a through hole yet. And just, do my best to clean it out. Putting the screw through this is going to have a good effect cleaning it out. But I also, I want to start with good clean parts. Yeah, like so this one, a little hard to see, but it's just full of powder. One nice thing is that iMaterialize does do a pretty good job of removing the powder via the holes of the sinterbox, because this thing ends up full of powder and parts. It's just a mixture of packed powder and parts when it comes out of the printer. And so they have to shake it, they have to excavate it, and then shake it, and then use, I'm guessing, compressed air and vacuums and stuff to siphon out all the stuff, all the loose powder, and then shake it a bunch, and spray it with air again, shake it more. It's probably a very messy process. but they want to do that really well so that when the pieces get dyed, they'll end up a nice uniform black color. Because if there's powder caked on, like there was in these, on the inside here, the dye won't actually reach the sintered plastic, and it'll leave parts of it white. But iMaterialize has been doing a really good job of cleaning it out, so it's unlikely you'll run into that. However, when you order from my iMaterialize shop, they would like you to put in the comments of your order that you accept the risk that the parts might arrive not completely dyed the right color. I have so far had very good results from them. I haven't had any parts arrive incompletely dyed, but it may happen down the road at some point. So just be warned. It's one of the risks of ordering parts within a sinterbox. But it saves us a lot of money, and so it's the way we do things. After cleaning out the powder, I also get a 1/8 inch drill bit and clean out the hole just to make it the right size. Gives us a good clearance hole for an M3 screw. Alright, that's all done. Those are ready. Let's do some cleanup. Alright, time to start assembling. We start with the centers. I start with it actually somewhat tight. It's very close to the bottom here. And as I'm assembling the first pieces, it turns out that it's too tight, I loosen it a bit. It's nice to start with it tighter because if it's loose, then pieces will fall out really easily. Alright, we've now reached the meat and potatoes of the assembly process. I like to leave one of the centers out. On some puzzles, I actually leave a second center out on the opposite side. But on this one, there's enough space between the centers that you can actually get a lot done without having to have the extra space. The Radio Cube 3 is one where I need to remove multiple centers in order to get started. Otherwise, you're actually doing setup moves in order to assemble parts, which is too much work. So, the way that this puzzle is going to work is there are going to be groups of 3 centers that kind of make this pattern, and a corner is going to end up right here. This puzzle, like many others, will be assembled in big chunks, and there are two different types of chunks. There are the face triangle groups, and there are the corner groups. And I will start by forming a face triangle group. And so that involves 2 of these guys with 1 of these in the middle. That. And then we put one of these. One of these. and between them, one of these. And then one more group of 3 in front of there. Smallest pieces. So, you got a triangle group. I leave out these, I call them face squares or center squares. I tend to leave them out, but this time actually they are sticking on pretty nicely, so I might see what happens if I keep them on. But nothing's actually keeping them in place until more of the puzzle is together, so they might fall out a little too easily for my taste. Well, let's see what happens. Then we take this whole group and we just stuff it into place. And now we find out if the centers are screwed down too far. That might be too far, but actually we don't find out yet. We'll find out a little further in. But I think I probably do need to loosen those a little bit. But now I'll do a second one. And we'll add it from this side. Cool. All right, and now I actually fill in this corner group a piece at a time. And then I fill in the face square to finish off the whole corner. Let's see, what's first? We got this edge piece, 2 of these guys. And then actually down below, I put this little teeny piece, which all it does is take up some space. It doesn't actually hold any pieces in. It just helps take up some space. And you actually can fit this piece in a few other places in the puzzle. It actually belongs right here as well. And I include enough of those to put them there, but I've actually been able to get away without putting them there. I'm not sure I understand what this piece does, but I put it in just out of paranoia underneath the corners. In any case, continuing, put the corner into place, then another couple of the edges. Come on. There we go. So, there we go. There's the corner group in place. Beautiful. And then what I do is I turn the puzzle a little bit. I actually make a turn so that there's room here to place the last face group. And as you assemble the puzzle, that gets harder and harder to do. And so you end up actually loosening some of the centers around it. But in this case, at the beginning of this assembly, it's very important to keep it nice and tight. Otherwise, stuff will fall out. With very large puzzles, I've sometimes used masking tape to hold things in place, but I rarely assemble puzzles quite that big. Even on the Nebula, I did not have to do that because the parts start out like actually sticking to each other because of the graininess of the material, and then when you actually start turning the parts, they polish themselves. They polish each other, which is really cool, honestly. All right, got that section there, and we'll just slot it into place. This takes some practice, but there we go. And oh, not down far enough. You can also do this one piece at a time, but I prefer to do it in groups or in in big chunks. Oops. Pieces flying everywhere. Turn this whole section back into place, and there we go. The puzzle is 1/8 assembled, minus the caps, but yeah, 1/8 assembled. Nearly. We're also missing those face square pieces. The next step is honestly just to continue doing that at all the different corners. Once I've assembled a corner here and a corner here, I put the face square pieces in, put the next face square in, and then slot in the fourth face triangle section. I'm probably gonna skip over that part. All right, I have reached the stage where things get a little hard. I've set up these triangle groups, and we'll have 4 of those groups left that will go here, 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 and here. And then on these areas, there'll be corner groups. And I've actually never figured out exactly the right way to do this. Kind of improvise each time, but one important thing to do before you start is actually to loosen each of the surrounding centers by a bit. This varies from puzzle to puzzle, how much to loosen it, and on this puzzle you can put the caps in. On most of my puzzles you can put the caps in to cover the screws after assembling and tensioning the thing, so this is still, reversible. Yeah, so now I just kind of balance these groups in place. This often takes more than one try. Oops. And then I'm going to put the center in place at least. And I might put the screw in at this point too. Oh, there goes one of the groups. Probably should have done this in the other order. Well. Pardon the toddler sounds in the background. This is a difficult balancing act here. And try a smaller section first. Oh, there we go. That's how I do it. Smaller section, and then these guys can go in here. There we go. Yeah, that's my dog. Okay. There we go. So those are ready. And actually, I'm going to put in the other corner groups, or the other, not the corner groups, the other face triangle groups too. And I think I'll follow suit. I'll do the front half first, because I think that worked pretty well. This part's the really delicate part, because now we might knock any of these out of place while putting in these last bits. I think this was the correct assembly order. All right, and then shove this one through the middle there. Uh-oh. That was nearly a disaster. All right, so those are all in place, and now we are just going to build the rest of this, and the rest of the corners. And the trick to that is actually going to be to put everything except for the actual corner piece into place. So I'll put the edge pieces in. Actually, I'll throw this guy in, though this might take some doing. Oops. Yep, bound to happen. It's at times like these that I wish that I had tweezers at my desk. There we go. Almost. That's in place. Okay. See that there? All right, and now I'm going to just shove these guys down into place around that. Very carefully. And it's actually pretty easy from here. All right, and then the corner piece, because we've loosened these centers, the corner piece is actually just going to settle into place. And now I'm actually going to tighten a couple of the centers that are nearby so that stuff doesn't get too far away. And just repeat the same thing on the other side. And then, very carefully, you just press this into place, sometimes opening up some space first. And ta-da! There we go. Oh, and before we turn anything, Gotta remember to tighten the screws again, because otherwise everything will fall apart, and we don't want that. Now at this point, everything's going to be incredibly stiff and coarse, but notice, even after one turn, it's already starting to smooth out. But what will really help is applying silicone spray. Alright, so we've assembled the puzzle and started to turn it a little bit. But it's, you know, still pretty grainy. Well, it's turning pretty well. Kind of hard to turn that outer layer. So, what we do next, watch out for these pointy bits. What we do next is we grab our silicone spray. I use Permatex silicone lubricant. Shake it well. I sometimes do this throughout the build process, but in this case I didn't, but whatever. But then I do a partial turn and another partial turn of I do two partial turns, just slightly, just to pry some pieces apart, essentially. And just to make a hole there, and spray it inside. That always makes two holes, though. And here's the other one. Shake that again. Up and start turning, and it should start smoothing out a lot. Now, without the caps in place, things kind of like nudge this way a little bit, so just be careful that you don't push pieces over into those empty areas, because I mean, it's a pretty robust puzzle, but you might end up breaking something. So also just watch out for the pointy bits, because they'll get you. Let's see if we can get the outer layer to turn. This might require loosening the puzzle a little bit. This always takes some work. I think I'm making some progress here. Yeah, just a little bit. I mentioned this in the description of some of the shop items on iMaterialize, that it sometimes feels like the puzzle is super glued together when you first assemble it. So bear with it, and you'll get a turn to happen. There we go, starting. Yeah, you got a little bit of a turn. There we go. Lube that. I used to be a little worried about getting the lubricant on the surface of the puzzle, but I'm actually not finding that causes major problems with the stickering. So, good news, right? There it goes. And wonderful. Look at that. As soon as it turns a few times, suddenly it really frees up. This SLS nylon is such an interesting material. And I find that Breaking it in requires turning in both directions. I wish I understood more about surface finish, surface roughness, and how it interacts with friction, but alright, I will go and do that to each of the faces, and then it'll be time to put the caps on. Alright, I have finished at least the first stage of breaking the puzzle in. I've gotten all 12 of the outer layers turning. At least I think I have. On the black puzzle, it's kind of hard to keep track sometimes. But as you go, it gets a little easier to do it. But still takes about an hour of work to actually get all of them turning. So be patient, add silicone lube as you go, and you'll be able to break it in. The inner layers are much easier to break in. The mechanism is a little bigger, and so that makes this cut. So, take your time, and it'll break in fine. After doing that break-in step, I tension the screws so that they are to my liking, because I'm about to put the caps on, and once the caps are on, I can't touch the screws. It is possible to take the caps off from this puzzle still, though. It does take a little bit of work to pry them out, but it's doable, so you can access the screws again. It's just nice to get it pretty good for right now. And I'll tighten that one a little bit. But I think this is actually pretty good. I'm going to leave it like this for now. And so now I just actually do a couple little turns here to give myself room to put the cap in. So now actually the cap can slide in there. And then kind of push it into place and make this turn while pushing down. And that cap is in place. And so just undo that. And there we go. Nice capped edge. Might have tightened this a bit too much, but I'll do some more breaking in and come back after doing a little adjustment. All right, I've done some adjustments to the screws, and I think it's turning pretty well. I think that it'll improve as I do the stickering and as I do, as I continue to break it in. But I think that this is pretty good. It's still catching a little bit on a few faces. Not a fan of that, but I think that that'll wear down. initially. All right, on to the next step, which is stickering. All right, time to sticker the puzzle. I'll do this in 2 steps. I usually start with the tiniest stickers, and then I do the rest. The reason the tiniest stickers come first is because I actually use super glue under each of those. Otherwise, they don't really stick very well to the grainy surface of the SLS nylon. What you'll need for this is some sort of super glue. I like to use this PR100 from 3M, but Gorilla Glue makes a pretty good gel super glue that is very useful for this. So any gel super glue, so very thick stuff, will be good for you. And then I also use a heat gun, which you can get at most hardware stores, but you can also use a hairdryer. It'll do the trick as well, but it'll take a little longer because it's not as hot usually, because you don't want to burn your hair. Let's first just start some of the tiny stickers. So I just put a little dab on the back of each one and place it. Get that orientation right. I think that's right. This process always ends up putting a layer of super glue on my fingers, and I just deal with that. But I make sure that it's dry after each one, otherwise I will start smudging it onto the surfaces of each sticker, and that ends up looking pretty bad, especially when there's light glaring on the puzzle. So we're just gonna keep going at this, and I'll do all the small stickers on this face. One thing to notice is that I will occasionally end up pressing some of the super glue in between parts. But as long as you don't get a lot between the parts, it's not a big deal. Once the super glue dries, you can just put your X-Acto knife between those parts, and it'll pry them apart pretty easily. Super glue is very brittle, and so it should come apart pretty easily. Just try not to scrape the layer of dyed plastic off of the parts. I'm going to do the other 4 teeny tiny stickers. Alright, I've now done the tiny stickers on this face, and I'll show you what I do for the bigger stickers now. What I do now is I put away the super glue. Oh boy. Clean off the X-Acto knife a bit. And then just start placing stickers. And I do this a little bit at a time, but I'll do a section here so you can get the idea of what this ends up looking like. Alright, so I've done a section of stickers, and notice that they are glossy right now. They're when they reflect the light, they're very smooth. Now that may look really nice, but the problem is they are not sticking particularly well. I can still pick at these and lift one up pretty easily. And so what I do next is I actually blow a heat gun at it very carefully. And that's why I only do a section at a time, because if you blow the heat gun at it for too long, it will actually shrivel the stickers up. And so what you do is you heat it up, and then you press your thumb against it. And be careful not to burn yourself. But here goes nothing. So I turn it on low, and I just heat it a little bit at a time. And I heat only a few stickers at a time if I can. But already, this is pretty effective. Now, this does end up actually showing the layer lines, which some people might not like, but it makes the sticker stick so much better. And I've gotten used to how it looks. In fact, I just finished stickering a nebula with this method, and I think it looks great. So, I'll finish stickering this thing and show the final result. And there we have it, a fully assembled and stickered Master Curvy Copter Plus. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something new. And if you buy one of my puzzles, I hope you have fun building it. Good luck, and thank you for watching.